Deep in the desert of New Mexico, you can find evidence of a fiery past. Black rocks tell the story of a volcanic event where the Earth's crust weakened and ejected molten lava. Follow these rocks, and you'll find an epic story told in molten earth. Aden Crater, the remains of an ancient shield volcano. The blackened walls that form the crater rim were created by lava splatters as the Earth's mantle rose to the surface 16,000 years ago. Inside the crater, you find an astonishing world where strangely shaped plants scrape by in the desert black. Epic volcanic beauty. Despite forming 16,000 years ago, I could still feel the violence of the events that formed the crater. Every rock before me birthed from scorching liquid form. The power of the earth made plain. The landscape formed a beautiful and epic reminder of the vast powers that lie beneath our feet. Pools and rivers of magma lost in time. After visiting such an epic place, I was even more impressed by the resiliency of desert life, finding ways to hold on in the harshest of conditions. From the ancient volcano, my friend and I made our way to a ghost town left to the wilds.
All right, well today we have another ghost town. So I'm in a place called Lake Valley, New Mexico. I actually messed up the name the first take, called it Lakeview, which it is not. So I'm in Lake Valley, New Mexico, and this was a place that in the 1800s, like a lot of the area had a great deal of mining, and so it attracted a decent number of people who created a community of a little over 1,000 people at its peak, and they were mining silver and other ore. But when the mining dried up, like it tends to for mining towns, a lot of the people left and sought their fortunes elsewhere and left behind the remains of this ghost town out here, where once many people lived. It's now abandoned. So I'm gonna go in, explore the place, and see what kind of treasures and wonders and history we can find.
In these mountains, you can find the metallic ore whose mining helped create the now abandoned town of Lake Valley. Houses and homes to no one, left in the desert sun. In the late 1800s, the discovery of silver spurred people into Lake Valley with promises of riches to come from the quarried earth. The school, built for use just after the turn of the 20th century, has been preserved as it may have appeared to its students so long ago. Empty desks and books for no one. Many of those buildings remaining in the town were houses for its workers and other residents. At one time it would have appeared larger. A fire in 1895 started from arson, engulfed the business district of the town, and burned its many wooden buildings into ash. Old buildings opening windows into past worlds. Found that when left to nature, things built by humans began to take the form of the surrounding landscape, yellows and browns being brought back to the wilds. A vast pile of cans struck me in a profound way. More than metal, they're stories. Every can has seen the human lives now forgotten, love and boredom and drama eroding away into memory. Like the more ancient ruins I've explored, stone stands strong. To finish off the day of exploring, we hiked into Prehistoric Trackways National Monument, which has an enormous collection of tracks deposited by creatures that lived just before the largest mass extinction event in history, leading way to the era of the dinosaurs. Beautiful patterns in the rock, sometimes interrupted by ancient footprints. The plants too were frozen in time. The monument embodied everything I love about exploring nature. Vast riches to be found with patience and the will to wander. Just under a tree root, I found several snails buried in the ancient rocks.
You know, there really is something to be said for the idea of open-ended exploring. You know, so often I think when people go out into nature, they are kind of expecting a very fast serve reward. You know, go to the Trackways National Monument and hike a bit on the trail and then find the full trackway laid out and labeled and organized for your consumption. But I think the beauty about this monument, these sets of fossil beds, is that the gift is in the exploring. There's so much stuff all around you, but it's not immediately apparent. It requires patience and time and looking around the area, picking up small rocks and overturning them, and accidentally making discoveries, deciding to go uphill for a little bit and bumping into a bush on your way down that just happens to have an amazing snail-type fossil, you know, finding little prints in the rock and just keeping your eyes open, because there's just this plethora of treasures but if you're too rushed, if you are expecting a faster reward, you'll likely never see the wealth of beauty that exists here. And it may be frustrating to some, but I think that experience is integral to how I approach nature. This idea of approaching it and listening to it in its own way, its own time, is really quite incredible. So I've got to say, I've really loved exploring this place and turning over the rocks and seeing what kinds of fossils are out here. Pretty awesome spot.
A walk through an ancient seabed was a beautiful way to close the day's adventures. In the next video, I end my week of adventures with my friend and visit the astonishing, blindingly white dunes of White Sands National Monument. Until then, wander in wonder.